Hi everyone. Let's continue our series about nutrition, and today I'm gonna talk about the aspects and strategies that are going to help you in your weight loss journey. I just spent a lot of time going over the concept of energy balance, which is the single most important physiological factor in weight loss, weight gain, and weight maintenance. I also stressed why yo-yo dieting is terrible, and why 95% of diets fail in the long term. If you identified with the information presented in the previous videos, you're probably feeling angry and frustrated. Why has no one ever told you these things before? Honestly, most diets have zero incentive to help you get the weight off and keep it off for good. They're only concerned with producing short-term results and gathering testimonials so they can make their diet seem like the easiest and best way to lose weight. Funny how you only see before and after photos, but you almost never see any of those people maybe a year later. You may think, according to what you've heard so far, that sustainable weight loss is hopeless, but that's not true, and I want to emphasize this concept. I wanted to show you how big the problem of weight regain is, and why most diets fail. A lack of sustainability. That being said, there are a lot of people who lose weight and keep it off, and you may join them and get into that 5% of people who succeed. But how they succeed? To understand it, we must see the behaviors they're adopting. It's not a specific diet that will lead to your dream physique. It's the right attitude, mixed with the right pattern of behaviors and habits. In a few words, it's consistency, adherence, and sustainability. That's not something unbelievable, because energy balance, calories in versus calories out, is all that matters with body fat loss. To that end, you can accomplish weight loss through any number of different diet strategies. Low fat, low carb, flexible dieting, ketogenic, intermittent fasting, or any dietary plan that allows you to sustain caloric restriction. I will talk in depth about how to set up a nutritional plan right for you, for your individual metabolism and personal preferences. That's the most important thing. In fact, you must find a plan that suits you, that you can stick to it, and not feeling restricted or not enjoying it. However, it's important to talk about the habits and behaviors of successful dieters, since these behaviors will have a bigger impact on your ability to lose weight and keep it off, because your mind is a powerful tool, and if you approach your diet with the right mindset and in the right way, you will eventually be able to lose weight and keep it off. So, remember that weight loss doesn't happen overnight, but it's accomplished a little bit every day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And every step you take is a bit of a progress. So just move forward every day. If you're doing everything right, you will get there. Also, an important thing is to keep track of your progress, especially visually. Take weekly pictures to compare your progress. Rely more on that than the weight you see on scale, because it can fluctuate a lot from day to day. So, when assessing weight loss, it's more important to look at its movement weekly rather than daily, because in this way it's more easy to see the trend up or down, while daily weight can be deceitful. Maybe because the night before you had more sodium, so your body will hold more water, or you ate a massive salad before bed. Sustainability and dietary adherence are by far the most important factors in losing weight and keeping it off. The research data is extremely clear on this. If you cannot sustain the methods you use to lose weight, then the question is not if, but how rapidly you'll put back on the weight you first lost. The people who can keep the weight off view the diet not as a diet per se, but as a lifestyle, a new pack of habits that they can maintain for the rest of their life, and so they are able to keep the weight off after the diet. This goes for any dietary intervention style. Your absolute caloric intake may change. I'm gonna talk about this later when we deal with the after diet. But whatever method you use to create a deficit, you must be able to maintain in the long run. For some people, a strategy like flexible dieting works like a charm. It relieves the burden of feeling like there are good or bad foods, or healthy and unhealthy, and allows you the freedom to consume whatever food you want, as long as it fits your caloric goal. This involves tracking your protein, carbs, and fats in order to give you that flexibility. I'll tell you later why it's more important to look at calories and macronutrients intake, rather than individual food choices. For now, suffice is to say, this is a great strategy for many people to create a sustainable lifestyle, since they can consume anything they like to hit their macros and still lose weight. For someone else, maybe that method doesn't work well, and they prefer something like intermittent fasting, where you have just a time window where you can consume your daily calories, because they feel like they can stick better to that protocol for weight loss. All this just to say that everyone is different, and what works for someone may not work for someone else. But if you respect the rule, calories in versus calories out, then you will lose weight, no matter what type of diet you choose to follow. An aspect related to sustainability is that your diet must give you that flexibility to accommodate your lifestyle and give you satisfaction, because adherence is a mix of gratification, both physiological and psychological. You must feel good while you diet. If you feel like you're imposing to yourself to do something that you don't like, or feeling obliged to eat some food that you don't like just because they are in your diet, then you won't be able to last long. I'm not saying that losing weight and keeping it off should be easy. It may be at some points, but it will also be monumentally difficult as well. It requires discipline, dedication, and willpower. However, we want to use a dietary strategy and employ behaviors that require the minimal amount of willpower needed to adhere to the strategy. Why? Because self-control is hard, especially on a diet when there is a lot of stress. That is, any type of weight loss strategy will require some form of sacrifice and self-control. But this isn't the only area of your life where you'll need to exercise self-control. You also need self-control for your family, your job, your career, your life. Maybe taken alone, these things may not be that challenging to be dealt, but together, with some stress, and while be on a diet, it might become quite taxing. People don't typically blow their weight loss diets when things are running smoothly. They blow their diets when work stress is high, home life is also stressing, they don't get enough sleep, there are troubles at home, you get it. This is why it's so important to find the easiest dietary strategy for you. You must feel like you're on autopilot when following your diet. That means that the plan is right and it doesn't stress you out, and so you can put your mind on more pressing matters. So by now, you're probably wondering what works and get some concrete ideas. I get it, but since there is no one-size-fits-all, I want to frame the conversation appropriately before I start discussing specific strategies and behavior. That said, there are some clear strategies and behaviors that emerge as commonalities among people who successfully lost weight and kept it off. The first one is cognitive restraint in some form. The most common trait of people who lose weight and keep it off is that they practice some form of cognitive restraint. This includes any form of restraint that limits food intake, whether is limiting calories, time-restricted eating, limiting certain macronutrients, like low-fat or low-carb, portion control, tracking macros or calories. The goal here is to adopt a strategy that requires minimal willpower and sacrifice. You'll need to decide what you're willing to sacrifice. Do you hate the idea of never eating carbs again? So let's exclude the keto option for you. However, make no mistake, sacrifice will be absolutely necessary to achieve your goals and maintain your success. I like the flexible dieting approach because I need to keep track of what I eat, otherwise I will overconsume calories. And to do this, I need to sacrifice time and energy by accurately, and I repeat accurately, track what I eat. Yet condiments are tracked too. Oil or any sauce. But after doing it for a long period of time, now I can assess roughly how much calories are in a meal, even if I can't measure it properly, like when I'm eating out. So sometimes it's similar to intuitively eating, but I prefer the scale to weight my food, so I can be more accurate. Also, I like flexible eating and measure what I eat because in this way I've data to know how much calories I need to consume to lose weight, to gain weight, or to maintain it according to my level of activity. In my opinion, you can also combine flexible dieting with almost any of the methods listed, because there's never a downside to tracking your caloric intake. If you like time-restricted eating, you can still track your macros, and now your diet strategy is even more accurate. And also, for many people, tracking can be a tool to be more adherent to the diet. Another aspect of successful dieters is self-monitoring, which falls in line in a way with restraint. Surveys of successful dieters showed that they took their body weight daily, weighted their food, or practiced some form of measuring food intake. The implications for measuring your food are pretty self-explanatory. If you track what you eat, you can better control it and ensure that you're actually in an energy deficit or in maintenance, depending on your goal. Daily weighting might be less intuitive, but it speaks to similar habits of being mentally engaged in the process of weight loss and maintenance. And also, it can be a motivational tool to see week after week the body weight to go down. But as I also said, it's important to take your median weight from the week to week and not focus on just daily weight because it fluctuates and it might off you. So weight, it's important, But you must combine it also with visual progress. If the weight doesn't goes down, but you see yourself more lean in the mirror, maybe some new line of definitions appeared, your waist circumference has gone down, then you might have not lost weight, but you definitely lost body fat and replace it with lean body mass, which is good. Also, many successful dieters continued, even after the diet is over, to wait in daily to keep track of their weight, so they can intervene quickly by reducing their calories for a week or two if they see their weight starting to go up. This may seem obvious, but another crucial aspect for success is exercise. In fact, I could argue that exercise should be your #1 priority alongside with proper nutrition. Over 70% of people who lost weight and kept it off engaged in regular exercise programs. Of the people who didn't keep it off, less than 30% engaged in regular training programs. Besides the obvious benefit of exercise, increasing your TDE, it also has some metabolic benefits that are less obvious. For one, exercise has been demonstrated to lower the body fat set point that your body will defend. That is, even if you regain weight, it will likely be less than it would be if you weren't exercising. Just that fact should be enough incentive to exercise. Furthermore, maintaining or increasing exercise in the post-diet setting has been demonstrated to prevent the increase in fat cell number that is associated with rapid weight regain. Now, I'm not saying that you need to move to the gym once you've finished a diet, but I'm saying that if you only exercise to lose weight and then quit exercising once you've lost it, you're setting yourself up for disaster. That said, you don't need to spend an hour every day train, even performing 30 minutes per day. 3 days per week of rigorous physical exercise can produce robust benefits compared to being sedentary. If you can work up to 1-2 hours per day, 4 or 5 days per week of intense exercise, then you're on another level of awesomeness for your body. But I don't want you to think it's pointless if you aren't able to get to the gym every day. In fact, if you hate going to the gym, try to find something else that you like doing. Because if you like, you're gonna do it forever. If you don't like it, then you will stop. Exercise also decreases the expression of lipogenic genes that may be typically increased by dieting, part of the restore prong of the body's self-defense system. It also traffics excess nutrients away from energetically efficient storage mechanism and towards more energetically costly mechanism, decreasing the likelihood of energy storage in adipose, while preferring increasing body lean mass in order to face your training sessions. While exercise increases the caloric output side of the equation of energy balance, surprisingly, it may also affect the input side as well. There is some evidence to suggest that regular exercise actually reduces hunger and decreases food intake in the post-diet setting. This may in part be attributed to the ability of exercise to sensitize the body to satiety signal. This was very apparent in a study of Bengali workers from the 1950s where they examined laborers who performed increasing levels of physical activity. The researchers found that energy expenditure and energy intake very closely matched for the workers doing these labor jobs. Those workers with the highest physical demands consumed the most food, and those who had lower demand consumed proportionally less food. This was only true up to a point, though. For those whose work was sedentary, their lifestyle was not associated with a corresponding decrease in energy intake, but on the contrary was associated with higher food intake. This is matched by other data showing that a reduction in physical activity to a sedentary lifestyle fails to produce a corresponding reduction in energy intake. Most studies on this topic focus on cardiovascular exercise, but there's also a big role for resistance training. Recall that lean body mass is the biggest determinant of your BMR. Additionally, research demonstrates that your BMR typically doesn't return to normal until all the LBM lost during diet returns to pre-diet levels. Resistance training increases LBM significantly, possibly attenuating the reduction in metabolic rate during dieting, but also helping to restore metabolic rate in a post-diet setting and limit body fat regain. Exercise is very important and has a strong association with keeping the weight off because 1. Physiological reasons mentioned before. 2. People who exercise consider fitness a priority and are more disciplined, so their mindset is focused on maintaining healthy habits, which includes also exercise. Make no mistake, if you want to lose weight and keep it off, that isn't going to happen by accident. You'll have to be mindful and make it a priority every single day. That may seem unfair if you know other people who seem to stay lean without having to put in much effort, but that's just the facts of life. And also, you don't know everything about their life, And so maybe they also put a lot of effort to stay lean, even though they make it seem easy. Also, exercise is very beneficial for you on health perspective. In fact, exercise reduce your blood pressure, lower your LDL cholesterol levels, increase insulin sensitivity, and many other benefits. So you want to exercise not primarily to look good, but to live longer and stay healthy. Successful dieters also followed structured programs. It's popular to make fun of different diet programs like Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, or people who hire diet coaches. This is the age of information, so why not save money and just find all the info you need online? Well, we are human beings, and just having the information isn't always enough to make a change. Humans like structure, and they enjoy having someone to put their trust in. We tend to second-guess ourselves quite a bit, and people do better when they have some kind of structured program to follow, rather than building by themselves. Successful dieters also tended to participate in structured programs more so than those who could not keep the weight off. It's also important to note that by engaging in a structured program, adherence may increase due to increased confidence, and also by checking with the coach to assess progress, and many other forms of motivation. Another crucial aspect is related to the ability of successful dieters to focus on the long-term goal. People who maintain weight loss tend to be able to think about the long term, and they don't let short-term feelings and desires dictate their behavior. Rather, they keep their focus on the prize. Regardless how they feel in the short term, they make a conscientious effort to stay mindful of their eating, because their goals are most important to them. This was clearly demonstrated in a study showing that successful weight losers had a much lower level of what the researchers called recency. Recency is the reliance on recent information at the expense of time-distant information. Example: someone who focuses on the fact they are hungry now versus the fact that they'd like to lose weight and maintain it in the long term. Additionally, people who have low recency are much less likely to engage in unproductive fad dieting. Dieters who lose weight and keep it off don't focus on quick fixes. They likely have low recency and focus on the long-term goal. Instead of trying to lose 5 kilograms right now no matter the long-term cost, I'm talking about weight relapse and all the consequences of yo-yo dieting. They focus on trying to lose the weight in the most sustainable way. The research is very clear that they typically don't engage in popular fad diets, weight loss supplements, or liquid diets fasts. This last point is extremely important because yo-yo dieters tend to engage in these behaviors, seeking any short-term weight loss that they can get. These methods of achieving weight loss don't lead to sustained weight loss and may place dieters at risk to lose more lean body mass while negatively impacting their metabolic rate. Lastly, another component of diet success was social support, even though it is a bit more complicated. However, social support during diets and in weight maintenance has been linked to both positive and negative outcomes for weight maintenance. Why? Much of the disagreement in the literature is probably due to differences in study design and definitions of social support. Based on the research, it appears that compliments and active participation with the weight loss subject produce favorable outcomes, while providing instruction actually seems to have a negative impact. It may be difficult to tease out some of these differences, but the nuances don't surprise me. There's nothing more disheartening and frankly annoying than everyone trying to tell you how to diet. Compliments, however, are motivating. In fact, if you want to make someone feel amazing, tell them how great they look. If someone compliments what you're doing, it makes you more likely to keep doing it, is positive reinforcement. What's even better though is active participation. If you have a friend or loved one doing the same thing you're doing, it might make you more adherent. So, if this weight loss thing is intimidating, find a person you know to get active together. That's also help to keep each other accountable. Create challenges to push yourselves. If we look at an extreme example of losing weight and body fat, bodybuilders typically have training partners because it motivates them to train harder. Now let's go over some other characteristics of successful dieters. They eat lower calorie foods, consume high protein, consume high fiber, consume lower glycemic index sources of carbohydrates, limit snacking, limit stress, eat mindfully. Don't eat in response to stress or emotions. This is tricky, since it's not exactly a choice for some people. If this is you, I highly recommend seeking help from a specialist. They don't stay up very late. Motivated by results. Have high level of emotional intelligence and mindfulness. Some of these behaviors may seem obvious, and some may be surprising. You may be wondering how you can implement some of these behaviors in a practical way. Some of these methods might work great for you, while some others may not. So I recommend to try different approach to see which works best for you. In my personal opinion, the most important thing are 1. Eat low-calorie dense food like vegetables, fruit, lean meat, and food with lots of fiber, focusing on the volume of the meal, so you feel satiated and block your hunger signal. Nuts may be a healthy snack because they have good fats, but they are high on calories, and just a handful of them will be more than 200 calories, while you can have 400 grams of strawberry for the same calories, just to give you an example. Second, consume protein in every meal, because protein are more satiating and will help you to build lean body mass while keeping hunger at bay. Third, get some quality sleep. At least 7 to 8 hours is recommended, because first you will be able to recover better from your workout, and also you lower the levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and when stress is high you feel more hungry. And also feeling rested will help you to have mind clarity to make the right food choices and stay on track. If you're tired and out of energy, it's way more easy to fall off the wagon and overconsume calories or worse, binge eating. Last tip is, try to avoid keeping in your house triggering food like ice cream, cookies, cereal, chips, or whatever it might be, so if you feel the urge to snack on them you won't find them in your house and eat a lot of calories without even realizing. So, if you feel very hungry, have a healthy snack option. I personally like Greek yogurt mixed with some blueberries and strawberries, and I can have a lot of it. So volume, and also protein, without having too many calories, and I feel satiated. Now let's talk about tracking your food intake. I talked about the benefits of tracking your calories. I even talked about how you can actually build the skill over the course of the years to just look at what you eat and rightly estimate the total calories of the meal. However, I've also said that for some of you it can be very stressful, so if it feels this way to you, then it's not the proper tool for you. There are also other ways that you might adopt if you feel accurate tracking is too stressful for you. 1. Write down what you eat on a paper, when you eat it, and how much you feel satiated. If weight loss is your goal, you don't want to feel bloated or stuffed after a meal. 2. Taking a picture of what you eat. At the end of the week you review all of your meals and make adjustment. Maybe reduce bread and add more vegetables or fruit. Or if you see you drink a lot of soda, switch to the diet version and you'll be able to reduce calories. If you consume a lot of alcohol, try drink more water. Choose leaner cut of meat. You get the point. As I said earlier, I like using an app to track food like MyFitnessPal. I'll go in depth on this, but it's a great way to calculate calories and macronutrients and keep track of what I eat. However, remember, calories counting is not precise. It's impossible for a lot of reasons. First, food labels lie. In fact, they can underestimate the calorie by as much as 20% of what is stated. So for example, if something is 100 calories per serving, it might be that the real calories are 120. But that's detail. You don't need to overcomplicate things. If you track your food intake and you're losing weight, then you're on a deficit, and so keep doing what you're doing. If the weight goes up, you have to reduce the amount of food that you're eating cause you're in a surplus. Also, by tracking your food, you will also gain more knowledge about the macronutrients and calories contained in a specific type of food. And this will help you to make more educated choices, especially when you're out at a restaurant and looking at the menu, and so you can choose a dish that you'll enjoy and also has a great nutrition value. Also, by tracking calories, you'll also know what is your maintenance calorie intake if you keep weighting yourself constantly. Also, you will know how your body responds according to the macros you eat. Having a high-carb day, and you will see your weight goes up because you store more glycogen in your muscle, and so you hold to more water. Just an example. Also, if you decide to track your food, you must be precise. Track everything it enters in your mouth that has calories, also the oil you use on your salad, everything. A lot of people underestimate how much calories they are really eating because they are not precise on tracking. And maybe they have multiple snacks during the day and don't track them, and at the end of the day they might have consumed more calories than they thought, and that's why they can't lose weight. They're not in a calorie deficit. In the beginning, tracking will be hard, but you'll learn and it will become a habit, and over time you won't even noticing doing it. Another great strategies for weight loss is to make hard to eat high calories dense food. In fact, for weight control, it's good to eat at home. It has nothing to do with chemicals. eating clean, or whatever the heck you might think. It serves two purposes. First of all, you know exactly what you're putting into the food, so you know how many calories your meal has. And second, you can have what you like ice cream, but make it healthier, like anabolic protein ice cream. There are a lot of videos on YouTube explaining how to make it. Also, I suggest you to keep out of your house high calories dense food: donuts, cookies, ice cream, chips. They are delicious, but they also pack a lot of calories. A bag of biscuits might be 300 grams and have 1,500 kilocalories, and you can eat it in less than 10 minutes. Moreover, those foods are very palatable, and it's hard to stop eating them. They're designed to taste freaking amazing, so you want to eat more. While overeating on fruit is very hard, and don't be afraid of fructose, it's bullshit. It's okay to eat a lot of fruit, because it's healthy, has a lot of good micronutrients, like vitamins, and has fiber, which helps you feel satiated. Another tool in your shed is planning and structured flexibility. When I say planning, I don't mean you have to eat out of a Tupperware container for every meal. If you like that, then you should definitely do it. What I mean is that you should try to have some regularity with your meals. Research shows that eating similar foods from day to day can decrease appetite and reduce calories consumption. It seems that limiting overall variety can reduce craving, and it also has the added benefit of making tracking much easier. But I don't say that you must have only chicken, rice, and broccoli for every meal. No. Variety, it's important because it brings taste and make your meal more enjoyable, and so you'll be able to stick to it forever. But for example, use different cuts of meat that are lean: chicken, turkey, cow, different vegetables: salad, tomatoes, zucchini, eggplant, different kinds of fruit. That's variety. Low calories dense food that has all the macronutrients you need while also helping you to stay satiated and still on a calorie deficit. However, I want to point out that they're not good or bad food. If one day you want to eat a higher fat cut of meat, you can have it. You track it and you make it fits your macros and calories goal. That's easy. Same thing if you want to have cookies, a piece of cake. You don't have to demonize food. That's the prelude to bad eating behaviors that lead to binge eating or worse illness. It's all about balance. Eating what you like, even the cookies, but instead of eating the whole bag, you just eat one or two of them. In fact, one study found that people who purposefully restricted various foods because they believed they were unclean or unhealthy had a much higher incidence of what they called a disinhibition reflex or binge eating. One study even demonstrated that a flexible eating behavior predicted greater weight loss. Also, trust me on this, I've been there binging on foods, eating a full bag of cookies or eating 2 pizzas because I felt the urge to eat them and I couldn't stop myself. Even today, sometimes I struggle with this, but I found a balance and I'm able to avoid episode of binging and have those foods with moderation. I know it's hard, but you can do it. It's not impossible. Binge eating, it's very common, unfortunately, among people who diet. A single bit of a bad food turned into a complete binge. Then you had to spend the entire next week trying to lose all the weight you gained on that food bender until next time, when you did it again. Many people who diet experience this cycle of eating clean most of the week only to binge for 1 or 2 days and completely undo all their hard work. A reason why this may happen is because the calorie deficit you're imposing is big, a deficit bigger than 1,000 calories a day, while doing hours of cardio. That's unsustainable, and willpower will get you going for a while, then you will run out of it and binge. So it's important to take baby steps. The daily caloric deficit has to be no more than 1,000 calories, and that it's very high. I would suggest a smaller deficit like 300 calorie in order to help you maintain your lean body mass and reduce metabolic adaptation. Also, a benefit of flexibility is that you can adjust your diet according to your social life. If you know that the evening you're going to eat out and you want to eat a pizza, you can lower your caloric intake during the day, or maybe if you feel like also fast in order to save up calories. Another way is to eat mostly protein and fiber until your big meal in order to have more carbs and fats to consume. However, I'm not saying to plan cheat meal. That's not the way, because if you feel the need to cheat, then your diet is not on point. It's just to have flexibility to reach balance and avoid over-consuming calories. Also very important, it's okay if one day you over-consume calories. Maybe your daily goal is 2,500 calories and you eat 500 more. Don't stress about it. It's better to have 500 calories more than binge and consume 2,000 calories more. So if you're out one day and you want to treat yourself, do it. If you know that the next day you're gonna be able to get back on track. If it's a trigger for you, avoid it. It's always about balance and know yourself to make the best possible choices. Time-restricted eating is another tool you can use. You can use this tool in conjunction with many others, or, depending on your skill level, you can do it by itself. Time-restricted eating is not a hack that allows you to eat whatever you want just because you eat in a 4 or 8 hour window. No. Based on what I've said so far, you now know that time doesn't matter much, certainly not nearly as much as overall energy balance. So if you overconsume calories in a 2-hour span, you'll get fat. However, if you feel comfortable, you can adopt intermittent fasting. This protocol, in general, usually comes down to the following. 1. You alternate your day between fasting period, when you don't eat, and feeding window, when you consume your daily calorie intake. 2. More often, the fasting period lasts longer than the feeding one, and some of the common splits are 16-hour fast, 8-hour feed, and 20 quarters. Despite common belief in the insulin model of obesity, which I went over earlier, intermittent fasting is not a magic trick. However, that doesn't mean it's not useful, especially if it's something you can adhere to. For some people, time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting helps them spontaneously eat less. They don't feel hungry during fasting periods, and they enjoy being able to eat bigger meals during their feeding window. However, keep in mind that intermittent fasting still must obey the rule of calories in versus calories out. Indeed, studies show no difference in terms of fat loss, adherence, or cardioprotection between normal diets and intermittent fasting when calories are equated. So don't think of intermittent fasting as a cheat code where you can disregard the loss of energy balance, because the loss of energy balance always apply. Thus, if you're going to practice time-restricted eating, I still suggest you to track your calories. There are some people who abuse time-restricted eating and use it as an excuse to binge eat during their feeding window. When they have trouble losing weight, they reduce their feeding period even more, but the problem persists because they are still overconsume calories. That's the reason why they can't lose weight. Calories aside, another important consideration regarding any type of fasting is protein intake. When fasting, you're also limiting your protein intake, so you're reducing the opportunities for muscle synthesis to core, and also you're exposing yourself to reduction of lean body mass and thus a decrease in your BMR. However, if you like fasting and find yourself comfortable with it, go for it. The important thing is that you consume at least about 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, or 1 gram per pound, in order to give your body enough protein to preserve lean body mass. Now it's time to talk about consistency. When I talk about consistency, it's important to note that it doesn't mean doing the same exact thing every single day. That would make you crazy, unless you absolutely thrive on routine to that high of a degree. Consistency is about making the right choices so often that they eventually become a habit. But how do you get there? How you raise your awareness on making the right choices. Practice and consistency. Not only, but adherence to your style of tracking and eating. In a recent study, Gibson and Sainsbury stated adherence is an important key to weight loss success, and there are a number of strategies that can be used to improve adherence that are applicable in research or real-world settings. An increased drive treat is a major contributor to unsuccessful weight loss attempts, and thus it is a key target in improving adherence. Ensuring that a diet contains adequate protein may also help to prevent an increase in the drive treat. In addition, a dietary intervention that is tailored to a person's dietary preferences, while still aligning with nutritional recommendations, may also improve adherence. Encouraging individuals to self-monitoring their food intake has also been shown to improve the success of weight loss attempts and maintaining dietary changes over time. The point is simple. Experiment various strategies to see which one works best for you and then stick to it. You must find a way to diet that it doesn't make you feel like you are on a diet. It must feel easy for you. You don't have to feel constrained to do so. Otherwise, you will eventually give up and fail. In the next video, I'm gonna talk about flexible dieting. Hope you like the video. If so, you can comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Let's go one more step.